Okay, it has. Oh, okay. Once again, this is a pivotal year in America. We have the midterms. Former President Trump and his criminal family have not been held accountable. The Saudis are trying to put Kushner in a positive position by giving him $2 billion, and that way they can help try to get Kushner back in, because they believe Trump's going to get back in, or they'll interfere. Kushner is an authoritarian. He is one of those persons that, the Jews were special, therefore we can treat anybody like crap. And it's the reason why we tax the rich. We have granted his father's still alive, but in general, it's the reason why super wealthy need to pay taxes, because it shows an incompetence. I know old Ron LeGrand, with a little help from Trump and probably McRaven, well, mostly because his whole business model is to gain control over who goes through, and then it's just sad. Anyways, he's anyway, but integrity is hilarious. It's a thing that does not exist very much for most people. But the Kushners are good. This is how they play it. They make it, well, you don't deal with those people. We got all the cash. We'll tell you what to do, and he's basically given up his sovereignty, which he doesn't realize at this present time. And that's exactly the same play that happens to. It's the psychopath's playbook, actually. So, so Kushner is getting cozy with the Saudis. Well, more than cozy, and he's saying, well, it's helping Israel. Let's see where we got here. See, it's not what I'm looking for, but he says this is being. So he was basically, him and Ivanka were basically using. Because that's the only reason Kushner got that money. The Trump family is a criminal organization that does not care about this country except for how they can turn it into a laundry, into the same thing that the oligarchs did in Russia. The whole idea with Ivanka and Kushner going to the January 6th commission was to give themselves deniability of any culpability. They're just as guilty, probably, if you really look into things. But also, it was a fishing expedition to see what questions Congress would ask and then report that back to Trump. Hopefully, Congress realized that in their questions. Because this kid's so idiotically arrogant, he thinks everyone's stupid. Psychopaths and narcissists do the same thing over and over and over again. Once you see the patterns, like it's externalization of self. They're just pretty much jerks, and they have to. If you say, "Well, we can't do anything," wrong. We can see this within Bucha. Um, Zelensky's getting angrier, and Putin's going to get happier because that's the idea. Externalize his anger, get him to be nervous and angry and short, and because what they did in Bucha was horrifying. Zelensky, if they can get Zelensky angry, then that pulls out to his people. Then they start getting nervous and worried, and then they lose hope. That's the way of the Sith, so to speak. Um, so, what does one do to do this? How does one counteract? One of the things is remember their whole goal is to shorten your time horizons, your belief horizons. Because every time you do something, they try to cut you off at the knees, or they try to do something that's horrible. We know that the way Kushner runs his companies now, he's trying to get that he just views everything as a way to just suck cash. It's just greed. It's all that he runs on. Not so much excellence, just greed. The worst type of greed, the self-hating greed, because as an externalized self, he is nothing without anything. So it's the lowest, it's the poverty type greed. All the money in the world, he will still be a very small person. Remember, Ivanka is Trump's favorite because, as Trump said, his she's just a little mini Trump. So therefore, usually, Daddy's little girl finds somebody who's just as appalling or who's just like Daddy. And we've seen within Kushner's business dealings, he's just as appalling, or if not worse, than Trump. Make no mistake about it, he will later on down the road, because Ivanka's already stated it, that they wished to run the country. They were thinking they were going to create themselves a little dynasty, i.e., Trump never leaving and then passing it on to Ivanka. This is the danger of this family. Now, to get onto with that, Letitia James, she's about to hold Trump for contempt. I would suggest before she places that, $10,000 a day is chump change. It's the cost of doing business. It doesn't mean jack. What you need to do is it should be at least $10,000, 10% of what Trump is saying his worth is in public. I'd suggest the high end. So he says he's worth $2 billion. All right, 10% in 90 days. So $2 billion, 10% of $2 billion is $200 million, and divide that by 90, which is real about 2 million, a little under 2 million a. My brain is not there. So clear 200,000, 2 million, 2 divided by 90. So yeah, 2.25 million per day. And you're gonna say, well, that's excessive. No, it's not. And I'll explain to you the reason it's not excessive. Go back through all your books, last 10 years, or more precise, if you really want to be, go all the way back to the crime bill and go, okay, and look at all the contempt charges within the state of New York for persons that are not within the top 10%, and go, how much, what would $10,000 a day be, or what is the amount in percentage terms that it took to get somebody to compel them to finally do to give the evidence over in a contempt position. Nominally, I would expect it to be around 10%. That's just me throwing out a number, but you have to bring data to the judge. Trump's trying to push this out. 10% over 90, $10,000 over 90 days does not mean jack. $10,000 in 10 days, what's it, 10, that's $100,000. His mind does not flip. It doesn't blink until it hears a million. So you need to start with 2 million, 2.25 million, which would get you to $200,000 to $200 million within 90 days. Two, usually what this does is put so much, if it wasn't for somebody like Trump, usually what it does is it puts such financial pain that impel that they impels them to finally act. Trump doesn't think you're going to do this. He's laughing at you essentially. $10,000 a day is cost of doing business. He doesn't care. $2.2 million, get it to 10%, 90 days, 200 million. And then what he's going to do is he's going to sit there. He's going to bring out his lawyers. The more expensive the lawyer, the more you got him in pain. So you want him to be paying extremely expensive lawyers. So you're going to cause him a lot of pain. Also, you need to subpoena the Kushner Foundation, because they're going to be linked. If you don't have it now, you will get it when you get that data. $10,000 a day is nothing. The Republic is on the line. Trump is a criminal. He's been running a criminal. Everything that's been said about this man, the last, for whatever, he's run a criminal organization. He hides behind the money. He does not think the rule of law means anything. It's just an inconvenience. The amount of backbone you're going to need is going to be Herculean. $2.2 million a day to compel him to, because Because if he doesn't hear a million, he's not going to react. He says he's worth 2 billion. Okay, use his words against him. 10% of 2 billion within 90 days divided by 90. I mean, which is 200, which is 200 million divided by 90, 2.2 million per day. And the reasoning you present to the judge is this is the same in percentage, in kind percentage that would be to an average working person. This is by the data, the percentage that we have charged for the average person who we needed them to compel. That has worked. Trump is laughing at the justice system. He believes he's going to be president in 2024. He already has attempted a coup. He will do it again. He is setting up the Republican Party to do it again. And he's convincing people with their races of their bigotry. This is why they needed bigotry in the South. You're seeing that with the gerrymandering in the South. You're seeing that with the gerrymandering in the North. And the average person believes it's to stop the other, or as they're saying, the Democrats, which is a euphemism for brown people, black people, others. We saw, Fox News and Rupert Murdoch don't care about America. They don't even care about Australia or Britain because it's just all about power, or what they perceive as power, and greed. Pardon me. And the belief the working classes are too stupid to know that they're being fleeced. Given just enough scraps to hold on to whatever they have. It is a natural human tendency. If we have something, a little bit of something, it's better to have that something than to risk it for nothing. And the less of something you have, the more risk adverse you become. It's like a shock absorber. Capital becomes a shock absorber. If people actually feel good about their lives, they're willing to risk and willing to take chances. It's more difficult when they feel like they have nothing. And it's all based upon words and the difference, or the view that there's a distance, whatever that distance is. It's why European American men right now are having a knipshit, because they believe there is supposed to be a social distance, capital and social distance to them and others, and they actually have to, and competition distance. They're not supposed to have to compete, which makes the country weaker. And they will say, well, it was doing fine with us, just doing everything. Yeah, well, the rich have used that thinking to make the country weaker. The release of all that mental capital should have made us stronger. But they used it to try to turn the clock back to the antebellum South. There's several different things. Okay. So that is the one of the most important things is Trump does not view, his brain doesn't even kick on until he hears $1 million. So give him what his brain thinks. He'll start, what he'll do, because always he does, he'll try to get a stay. He'll try to get he says he'll try to argue it. The more he didn't send he's not going to send expensive lawyers because he's not going to care. 10% right off the bat, 2.2 million right off the bat. 10% of 2 billion, 2.2 million per day right off the bat. Do not waste time. He is trying to run out the clock. And what is left of the Republican Party has put party over country, over the Constitution. The next thing is, as I was saying, the what has happened in Bucha in Ukraine is horrifying. But was also, we have to understand, this is the same thing that's going on in places like Africa with the Wagner group, Wagner, whatever. In the same mindset where you have the same type of thinking. You have militants. We're finding we're training these armies to take on militants, and they turned it in around and instituting coups on these countries, especially in apparently North Africa, and others. Saudis are going to get burned, but they don't. But their feeling is it's an investment in the former. Yes, I agree with her because it's a national security threat. MBS is a national security threat. He, when we switched to the oil, backing the dollar, first thing the Saudis did was create the oil crisis to test out, see how they can use that to influence the West. Right now, it's the combination we have it in France. Why is Le Pen gaining traction? Well, all of the people, all the Muslims that had gone into France, they're not assimilating. They're blocking the streets. They're, as they did with, they're not living up to Western values of enlightenment. They killed that teacher. And then that's a lot of that is the Wahhabists sending money to Britain and France to undermine the culture, to undermine these countries with their Wahhabist beliefs, and in these and Medina style imams who are just preaching hate and division to undercut Western democracies. And guarantee it, he believes he smells blood. He's a psychopath. He can see it. And I'm not saying everyone's a psychopath, but there's a duper's delight smile, the glee that he has, the hateful glee in his eyes, tells me everything. His by being Mohammed bin Salman. And then Kushner is a far right sect, Hasidic, if I remember right. That is, and so remember, far right is always the idea that somebody, one individual, it's top down. Conservative in America means individual freedom for each individual, but when you push it past that, it is, as these billionaires, these people who do not believe in other people's freedom, it is my free. They believe it is their freedom to tell others what to do, and their other personal rights don't matter. But they'll tell the others it's personal freedom, but not. But if you don't think in the way they think, because most people do not think in the terms of a psychopath or a narcissist, it is my freedom to tell you what to do, kick you if you want to, and you're supposed to just suck it up and deal with it. This is what the far rights want to do. There is that within Israel, that thinking, the very undemocratic thinking. It's back when judges, you they were saying we have all these judges, and everyone has a king. Why can't we get a king? So they looked for the Benjaminites, the lowest of these, to create a king. Not Israel, Elijah. It's the same thing. And it will ruin America. Kushner doesn't care about America one bit. It's just a place to grab money. And you have the far right, religious groups. Each is trying to play each other. But from Kushner's perspective, even though Saudis are horrible, if you were to view it as from a biblical perspective, they're the Ishmaelites. So, which is the Ishmaelites are supposed to be closer than whatever the word is they call non-Jews. Brains just kind of understanding that thinking. You start to see that he really is a horrible. They're both quite crappy human beings, and they're crapping on the United States. They view themselves in just a horrible light. And since you have a lot of the evangelicals so more worried about creating the end of times than building a beautiful city on the hill, they're playing that. You can see that within the recent Mel Gibson interview. Everyone's looking at Mel Gibson saying, but if you listen to what he was saying, Fox News just tried to just get him to go. Let's actually go back to my history. Because what he said was, where is it? The Roma. Was actually enlightened. Was very enlightened. When you if you listen to what he when you listen to what Mel Gibson was saying, he doesn't want to say it here, but this is the part right here. And this is what he's saying is here. This is a brainwashing statement. Just deal with your crap. We're gonna crap all over you, and you should be enjoy the suffering we're giving to you because God gave you that suffering. This is what Murdoch is telling people. But this is what he had to. And he's like, yeah, good job. As he's holding on to his the guy on the right, he's like, yeah, go. And you notice there was a slight contempt before he started to laugh. It's like Bjorn. It's like, because what they really were, the whole thing is to set that up, is to tell the people who watch Fox News, just sit, enjoy your suffering. It's kind of you're one of those little people. You're supposed to enjoy your suffering. We're going to give you as much suffering as possible, and you're supposed to just suck it up and deal with it. That's the true message. And the arrogance, he's evil. Not Mel Gibson. That host is evil. He's just a hateful person. And he goes, "How do you know?" He's everything. His eyes, man. There's when he was sitting there he was as Mel Gibson was speaking. He's like he was doing a micro nod. Yeah. He keeps speaking, dummy. Ha 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 ha. But when he got to the point where it was real, it was nervous laughter, and he's enjoying the fact. So we have to call it the Shen smile. He's enjoying the fact. Look at this stupid, crazy person. But if you listen to what Mel Gibson is saying, that's a true Christian statement. It is the loss of ego that creates life. But the thing is, from what they don't realize is Mel Gibson was, as he was listening, he has gone through the conjunction of the opposites. He's gone through the unus mentalis. He sees this Fox host for the evil that he is. Speaking in tongues is really speaking in riddles because it's so hard to explain to somebody who's stuck in ego as this host is to understand. But what they did with Mel Gibson's interview is the epitome, should be by any person who calls themselves Christian, of evil. Because he didn't want to get in the thing. What they were trying to do is create a dichotomy. It wasn't no matter what they did, it was always to say to get it to make it about quote Slapgate when Slapgate really is about saying, see those people over there, i.e., Black African Americans can't control themselves. And Mel Gibson did not answer that question. When he tried to bring it up, what did Mel Gibson do? Mel Gibson didn't even verbally answer the question. This is Fox News. He's like, I'm not going to answer that question, but he didn't say what every Christian, supposedly, who says that they're Christian, especially if they're evangelical or Pentecostal or Protestant, if they're a Protestant denomination, they should be saying that, yes, born again. What he was saying was about the ego, was the true message of Christ. They don't care about the evangelicals, and the evangelicals don't care about people. I should say that. They believe what they're doing is right, but they keep being led by psychopaths. And you have the family who said, well, Jesus wasn't weak. No, Jesus wasn't weak. It takes a lot to go inside of oneself. Or if you are a person who externalizes, to truly find one heart. Because the self has to break down for the self to become real, for the soul self to come out. And what was insidious, we're going to watch this Jesse dude as here. We're going to turn off the volume. We're going to say where he was speaking about. We're going to watch him, not Mel Gibson. And he starts to speak. He licked his lips right there. He's setting it up. He's like, and Mel Gibson should worry. He knows that this is a setup. This is not what he wanted to do. So he's thinking, he's coming up with a way of saying what is the truth. You can see when he's going, well, see, there's Nicrom nod right there. A little surprised, a little slight contempt. Not like another micro nod. Yeah, yeah. There was a smile, contempt. He's like, yeah, I got you. At that point, these are very subtle, and you might say I'm reaching. You can use a dot matrix, a computer system, place it on the very edges of his lips and at the bottom of his head, and then line that up. Because these are things that are objective, I don't. You can do those to find the objective states. And then when you look at it as a macro set, you it become and then you start to see the same pattern over and over again. He would not be on Fox News if he was not promoting this type of horrible thinking. And that's why when they're saying, the family is saying, when I said the family, the focus on the family, that the first put on the national prayer breakfast, they truly misinterpret the teachings of Jesus. But yes, Jesus is strong, but they try to turn it into psychopathic. And they even say we try to go that they try to go after the wolves. They give the wolves something. And a lot of the prayer and everything is awesome, but when you have leaders who are not truly blessed within Christ, then they're just using religion. They're personally they're no better than the Mohammedists who believe in Medina Islam. And what Mel Gibson was saying there, any true believer in Christ should be, or any religion, it was very profound. and he took it to laugh at him and then use it to disparage black African Americans, to say they have no control. See if we can dump, but to a psychopath, what that means, and a narcissist, it means, oh, we can dump all of our negative emotion, they'll snap, and then we can say we're evil. They fall for it every time. That's what that is. That's how propaganda, one of the ways Fox News does propaganda. And then you have what you see with the Kushners throwing America under the bus. Now the Saudis on the Saudi, 2 billion in their sovereign wealth fund doesn't mean jack. They were buying influence. So once again, that comes back to Letitia James, 10% of $2 billion, 90 days. And the more expensive the lawyers, the more you know you're causing them pain, because it's the exact same thing, because they do not believe laws are for them. They are there to push other people down to hold on to their money, but they're not to be held accountable. That's how the Trumps act and operate, to include Trump, Kushner's act and operate. Now we're going towards France. Oh, I'll do the Black Lives Matter tomorrow, and the ALEM Black Lives Matter tomorrow. That's completely a different set. But right now we also have France and Putin and the far right all rallying around Putin. As I said early in the very beginning, I can understand the French's people who their objection to what's going on with immigration and things like and they like to come to France, and then you have the Saudis creating problems. You see the same thing in London. Whole neighborhoods being filled with this filth. If and they're taught within the religion that you go into a place and then you breed until you overtake it, and then you change the laws from within. Then that is a actual, and you're gonna say you're anti-Muslim, anti. No, dude. You move to some place, you conform to their laws as best as you possibly can. If you can't conform to those laws and the way they do things, then you can get up and leave. And that's why Le Pen is getting so much. One of the reasons, and the thing is, we know if you give up your freedom for safety, you get neither. And in many ways, that's what Islam does. It makes people give up their freedom for supposed safety, and you get the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where you have no political freedom. You have the people don't have a say in the lives of the government, and the people, and that's what they're trying to do with AI and the Murdochs and people who don't care about this country are trying to do. Mitch McConnell, especially with all the judges, saying it's just to keep out those people, when in reality, the target is actually his people. So that's what's going on. It's the same thing, and the thing is, she's gonna if she gets in, we can't touch politics in France. They're a NATO country. They're a part of the EU, but that's going to be, you have two wedge points within the EU. Then you'll have three actually. Well, yeah, because it would be Erdogan, who's a dictator. It was Turkey's unicameral system. He took over took over the unicameral body, then turned into a rubber stamp. He is doing that with getting one person who's son of what one of the oligarch's sons into the House of Lords. So now he has a direct line of data back and forth. Then he is Orban in Hungary. You know, if a country wants to keep people out, that's fine and dandy. But what Orban's doing is turning himself into a dictator, a democratic dictator, but a dictator nonetheless. And Le Pen believes that she's going to do the exact same thing in France, and then he'll slowly do that to England and all the other countries within the EU, and then he can just roll his way. He'll break the EU from the inside out. That's Putin's goal. You're already seeing that with Orban saying, "Oh yeah, we'll take that. We'll take the gas from Russia. He's been always playing it, but he's mostly aligned with Russia because that's where his center of power is. That's the gravity of his power. And Le Pen wants to do the same thing. So be prepared, you, and then with people see what is at present, which is all the prices are going up. They just came out of the COVID thing. Everything they feel like the government's not listening to them because the rich keep making sure the government doesn't listen to them. And in this case, I don't we can't totally control prices and everything like that. But prices of wheat's going to go up, stuff's going to go up. If Putin controls Ukraine, he'll have control of the wheat supplies of the world. He'll have almost full control of the gas supplies going into Russia. He'll have supplies of coal, and then iron ore, caviar, true caviar. Um, he, it's the areas that he wants in Ukraine over over 10, 20 years are worth trillions of dollars. But more important, it can control the West. It will bring down Western Europe. And here's the thing: we can sit there, um, as I said with Zelensky right now. The idea that, as I said, as psychopaths do, is an externalization of self. The horrors that he did in Bucha, that his troops did in Bucha. The activities start at the top. People follow the emotion state of their leader, and if he can um, get them fearful, or seeming to be fearful, or over, Zelensky's pushing. Just slow your roll, buddy. Chill out for a second. Take a breath. Just say thank you. I know you say thank you. I know you 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 you're uh, you love you're glad we are giving you the weapons, and yes, you need more. And the older thing is, do not externalize that fear, that anger. Show us the joy and the hope, and you will get more. I know it's going to be hard, but he wants you to to show anger and to show fear. Show us the hope. And the way you do that is one of the things we're going to need. You said you want to lend lease. Okay. You expel him from the Donbass, free Mariupol, because that's what he's trying to do, with cut off that whole south and pretty much cut all of pretty much leave you guys with nothing. The Holodomor all over again. This guy, the way he butchers is he does small encirclements and then bombs the center of the circle. Encircle and bomb the crap out of the center. That's how he's going to do this. Yes, you need more tanks, you need anti-air, you need anti-ship because you need to be able to push the ships out farther away from the area, mine the areas closer. If you can get special operations to even sink some of these ships out in the Caspian Sea, that'd be even better because now it pins them to start looking more around their shoulder as opposed to only thinking about doing land attacks, sea to land attacks. Another thing is you're going to be out in the open, so again, probably be careful now that they might start doing small combined arms with infantry and mechanized artillery. You're seeing in there they're going to start doing a lot of artillery with that convoy. Great deal of the trucks had mobile artillery as they were moving to reposition. So they're just going to be basically just a massive Napoleonic charge. One of the I was thinking about one of the ways of structuring, but I'll have to come back to that later, where you use a combination of trucks and tanks, and then the APCs, and you use the mortar fire to screen as to pin the infantry into their APCs as you take out the tanks. So you want to pin the infantry in the APCs or pin them back, take out their tanks, and then because your tactics are going to have to change. But I want to do another research before I just totally say this is the hypothesis or this is the way of thinking. Because I know the Russians are also probably listening to this, which will be very useful as well. So no, once again, Zelensky, even though you're angry and you're hurt, and because you see the atrocities being committed. Oh, what I was thinking also, since they're trying to take what is your wealth, your essential wealth of Ukraine, start having your ministers create, saying, okay, this is one of the things is, okay, well, once we get that gas field in the Donbass area, the region that what they're really after is those gas fields, because it's cheap gas, below market price gas that Russia is using, and if they can get 100% of all the gas supplies, then they're going to jack up the price. They can get the coal supplies, they can get the iron supplies. You're an educated population. A Marshall Plan. Start putting together the Marshall Plan for Ukraine, because as an educated populace, there's a lot of trade that can go on, and that is more terrifying to Russia, because within 10 years, a free, educated populace with an energy supply, we get, we'd rather, Western Europe would rather get their, it just seems to be, like, I think it was the God's joke on humanity is we're going to put the most natural resources in areas where they're predisposed to authoritarian regimes. So you have a democratic area producing gas, a new gas supply, as Europe is switching over to renewables. Then at the same time, that gas funds your trade. Plus you have a lot of wheat and you got a lot of natural resources. That shifts the balance of power. Russia doesn't, you start building out what will Ukraine look like after you defeat the Russians. Let your people know this is where we're going to go. This is how we're going to make Ukraine greater than it was. And oh yeah, by the way, the oligarchs are not going to get all the money. We're going to give the average Ukraine the opportunity to build up something from the bottom up. And this is how we're going to do it. That you're going to be able to use your grit and determination to build businesses, to build trade. And the oligarchs aren't going to be able to strangle it because that was what was keeping you out of the EU, their corruption. Show Ukrainian people, this is the glorious future that you're marching to. Not just fighting to hold on to what you have, but to fighting to build that great ideal. Give us, give them the future that Vladimir Putin is trying to steal from them. And yeah, it can be over the top. Say, here's the pragmatic thing. Build two different things. Like, here's what we think we can do pragmatically, and then here's what we feel like that's absolutely stupid. But hey, if we can get it, that'd be awesome. Look to the future, because if he can get you afraid, you start looking to the present, then you start looking to the past. Look to the future. Get them looking forward, and they'll roll up Russia. Apparently, we're manufacturing as much as we can, as fast as we can right now. And, okay, that's where I want to end. Tomorrow, I'll talk about BLM in El Salvador and the ALU, along with the child tax credit. Oh, for America, before this is something information I need. Right now, the polls are saying, and I do not work for any particular president, but the polls are, but for what they're just useful. From my perspective, yes, I is one of the things right now is because of the Republican intransigence on purpose designed to hurt the average person, not solve problems for them, but to hurt them. The polls are down. They're saying the Biden administration isn't doing anything, hasn't helped their lives. The inflation is eating into everything. Well, if the Build Back Better had gone through, there would have been some money to shock absorb the inflation. They cut the child tax credit, which putting a squeeze on the working families. Manchin doesn't care. He's like, oh, it doesn't matter. My constituents are all being brainwashed by Fox News, so I'm good. So this is what I want to know. Tell me about your day. Put it on Reddit. I get up. I get up in the morning. I take 3 buses to get to my job. It takes me 3 hours to get to the work. Then I got to work 12 hours. It takes another. Well, okay. It takes me 2 hours to get to work. Then I got to work a 12-hour shift and 2 hours back. I I get home, I'm barely able to do anything. Take a shower, pass out, wake up, do it again. Get one day off, and then they give me one day off, or instead of getting 2 days off in a row, I get one day off, and then I might have to work 9 days. Then I might get 2 days, and so you're never given a chance to live. Tell us about your day. Tell us what you think. Say, this is what my day is like. This is what I want. This was so start with what this was what I dreamed. So start with what you dreamed. Well, as a kid, I really wanted to believe I can do this, but right now, this is what's happening. And I hope that, if I can say, you tell us about how the child tax credit helped you out. Tell us what you believe. What is the dream? First of what was your dream? What is your reality? And what is your hope for the future? Put it on Reddit. Because pollsters can say all the polls and doing this, but tell us the story. Tell me, how was your day? What was your day like? How was your day yesterday? How's your day today? You went to work. What would make your day better? What would help you with your dreams? You know, Mel Gibson is very wise, but he's being treated like crap for truly understanding the wisdom of Jesus by a station that's just manipulating the evangelicals. So tell us about your day. Tell us about your dream. Tell us about your hope. Place it on Reddit. Subsection, this is my dream. This was my day. Evil tries to steal your dreams. Horrible people try to give you their negativity so you give up on your positivity. They want to steal your hope. They want to steal your light. It belongs to you. And when everyone has their light, when their light shines, we as humanity, we as people, we become our greater and best selves. Your dream is not just your dream, it's everyone else's dream as well. Dare to dream the dreamer's dream, that their dream will come true, even if it's small. It makes the world a little bit better. I look forward to hearing about your dreams and how we can help make each other's dreams real.